Okay, I'm going to leave off where I left off on the introduction to this book yesterday, which is called Wired for War by P.W. Singer from the Brookings Institution. I think it's a Brookings Institution. Anyway, think tanks. People that make you think you need tanks to have peace. You don't need tanks. You need to have the opposite of tanks. You need to have peace institutions. This contradiction of war as we imagine it to be versus how it really is isn't just the matter of a young boy growing up and putting his lightsaber away. It is part of something bigger that has haunted humanity from its very start. One of the original sins of our species is its inability to live at peace. From the very beginning of human history, conflicts over food, territory, riches, power, and prestige have been constant. The earliest form of human organizations were clans that first united for hunting, but soon also for fighting with other clans over the best hunting grounds. The story of the dawn of civilization is the story of war. As these clans transform into larger tribes and then to city-states and empires, war was both the cause and effect of broader social change. From war sprung the very first specialization of labor, the resulting stratification into economic classes, and the creation of politics itself. The result is that much of what is written in human history is simply a history of warfare. It is a history that often shames us, and it should. War is not just merely human destruction, but the most extreme of horror and waste wrapped together. Our great religions view war as perhaps the ultimate transgression. In the Bible, for example, King David was prohibited from building his holy temple because, as God told him, "You are a warrior who has shed blood." This is from 1 Chronicles 28. The ancient prophets' ideal vision of a future is a time when we, quote, will learn warfare no more. That's Isaiah 2:4. As one religious scholar put it, quote, war is a sign of disobedience and sinfulness. War is not intended by God. All human beings are made in the image of God, and they are precious and unique, end quote. I wish he said which religious scholar that was, since he didn't put a footnote. The same disdain for war was held by our great intellectuals. Thucydides, the founder of both the study of history as well as the science of international relations, described war as a punishment springing from man's hubris. It is our arrogance chastised. 2,000 years later, Freud similarly described it as emanating from our thanatos, the part of our psyche that lives out evil. Yet, for such a supposed abomination, we sure do seem to be obsessed with war. From architecture to the arts, war's horrors have fed the heights of human creativity. Many of our great works of literature, art, and science either are inspired by war or are reactions to it. From the founding epic of literature like Gilgamesh and the Iliad to the great painters of surrealism to the very origins of the fields of chemistry and physics, war then appears in many more guises than the destruction and waste of human talent that we know it to be. War has been described as a testing ground for nobility, the only true place where man's arete, which is, I'm probably saying it wrong, A-R-E with a little thing over it, T-E, I think it's French, which is excellence, where man's excellence could be won. In the Iliad, the master narrative for all of Western literature, for example, fighting is where man will win glory, end quote. From Herodotus to Hegel, war is described as a test of people's vitality and even one culture's way of life versus another. War is thus often portrayed in our great books as a teacher, a cruel teacher who reveals both our strengths and our faults. Virtues are taught through stories of war, from Homer to Shakespeare, which is not Shakespeare, it's Sir Francis Bacon. There was no person named Shakespeare. William Shakespeare was an actor in the plays, as it lists him in the plays under the title Shake-Spear, which is a allusion to the founding of the Rosicrucians, which is the main translator of the King James Bible, was also the main one of the main founders of the Rosicrucians and the writer of all the Shakespeare plays. It was no man named Shakespeare. That's why there's no letter written to him or by him. While evils to avoid are drawn out by war in stories ranging from Aeschylus. I used to know this name. This is Greek. Aeschylus. I read his writings in, I forget what class at Silk University. To Naipaul. Naipaul. I don't think I've heard of him. War is granted credit for all sorts of great social change. Democracy came from the phalanx and citizen rowers of the ancient Greeks. While the story of modern day civil rights would not be the same without Rosie the Riveter of the African American soldier of the Red Ball Express in World War II. War then is depicted as immoral, yet humanity has always found out clauses to explain its necessity and celebration. The same religions that see violence as a sin also license war of crusades and jihad. And it is equally the cause of politics. We repeatedly urge war as a means to either spread or defeat whatever ideology is in vogue at the time, be it enlightenment, imperialism, communism, fascism, democracy, or even simply to end all wars. Big lie there. This paradox continues in American politics today. Avoidance of war has been a traditional tenet of our foreign policy, yet we have been at war for most of our nation's history, and many of our greatest heroes are warriors, or the ones they want us to be heroes because they claim they're heroes. My heroes are definitely not warriors. They're peace activists. We are simultaneously leaders of weapons development, being the creators of the atomic bomb and the founders of the arms control which seeks its ban. We are repulsed by the idea of war and yet entranced by it. I'm not entranced by it. I think it's disgusting. In my mind, there are, and most of them are completely avoidable. In my mind, there are two core reasons for humankind's seeming obsession with war. The first is that war brings out the most powerful emotions that define what it is to be human. Bravery, humor, love, leadership, pity, selflessness, comradeship, commitment, charity, sacrifice, hate, fear, and loss all find their definitive expressions in the fires of war. They reach their ultimate high and lows, and in doing so, war is almost addictive to human culture. As William James put it, the horror is the fascination. War is the strong life. It is the life in extremes. They spelled that wrong. Extremis. Maybe he didn't spell it wrong. Maybe that's the right word, but I've not heard of extremis. I've heard of extremists with the T, but this is horror. William James, if William James said this, the horror is the fascination. War is the strong life. It is life in extremis. EXTREMIS. Not with the T at the end. It's not extremes, which would be an E. So it might be a misspelling, which I said I find in every book that I read. I put a little check there. Check that out later if that's really the quote or did they mean extremes. Why do we go through extremes? That's what I think they meant. Okay, I'm going to read one more paragraph. The other reason that war is so consumes us is that for all humanity's advancements, we just can't seem to get away from it. After nearly every war, we cite the immense lessons we've learned that will prevent the calamity from repeating itself. We say over and over, never again. Yet the reality is, ever again is what we've seen. It's because the people who make millions of dollars do it off. War is the greatest racket in history. So all the rich people, they get rich from wars. That's how the That's how the big families in Europe, Rothschilds, they made all their money on war. And just like them and the Illuminati family on this side of the West Coast, Illuminati family, they funded both sides of the World War II and World War I. So no matter what, they're going to profit, no matter what side wins. And they got super rich off funding the defeated side too. Anyway, we won't go into that. I gotta go. It's been nice. I'll read something else. You tell me what you want me to read. Hello, Ashley McKenzie, Anthony Johnson, and Gordon Joseph Taft.